Hi everybody, welcome to the United Talk. This is Divyansh and today we are going to be talking about lots and lots of news regarding Manchester United Football Club, the transfer news regarding Timo Werner, Jadon Sancho update, Donny van de Beek and Raul Jimenez, and we've been linked with these two players again. We are also going to be talking about Alexis Sanchez a little bit again, and we'll talk about the best possible transfer window for Manchester United and what could that be, and also a little bit about this game that happened behind closed doors at Old Trafford between Manchester United red and Manchester United away kids. So lots and lots to talk about today. Let's start with the Timo Werner news, and we all know that a couple of days ago, or about 3 days ago, Chelsea came in for Timo Werner, and they have agreed to pay the release clause, which is about 50 odd million for Timo Werner. Now, the reason why we are talking about this today is because a lot of United fans, a lot of people have actually come to me and asked me why did United not go for Timo Werner when especially Liverpool were not able to or not willing to pay the release clause. And I think there could be three possible reasons. The first two are kind of stupid, but you never know with Edward Wood and what's going on there with him. But I think firstly, like all United fans, even Manchester United hierarchy thought that he's going to Liverpool. He wants to go to Liverpool, and it's true. Timo Werner did want to go to Liverpool. Timo Werner was in regular discussions with Jurgen Klopp. Nothing was agreed, but he wanted to play for Klopp, and Klopp liked the player, still likes the player. The problem is Liverpool were not willing or couldn't pay the release clause, and because of that, Chelsea jumped in. Now Chelsea was in the market for a striker anyway, just like us, and we could have done the same. And I've said this in my show last time as well that I would have loved to have Timo Werner in the team, but like I said, either the hierarchy thought that he is anyways going to Liverpool, so there's no point monitoring his situation, which is foolish, it's stupid, but that's what they thought. Or the Ighalo deal kind of pushed them back with the Timo Werner deal, because with Ighalo staying till January now and the priority being Jadon Sancho, I think more or less United were not really focusing on Timo Werner, which again is a stupidity for me. But I'm a little bit torn in this because when I think about it, and again we spoke about this last time as well, if we would have bought Timo Werner, what and imagining that we would have also bought Jadon Sancho, what would be a starting lineup with a Sancho on the right, Werner centrally, Martial Rashford on the left maybe, or Timo Werner on the bench? I don't know. But the thing is, the reality is, amongst Chelsea, Liverpool, and Man United, it was only Chelsea who could have offered Timo Werner a guaranteed starting spot. If you look at Liverpool, you have Firmino, Salah, Mane, who are arguably the best front three in the Premier League right now, if you remove City's front three maybe. But so you can't guarantee a starting spot to Timo Werner. And same at United, because we are not in the state of comparing Martial with Timo Werner or even Rashford with Timo Werner, because we all want Martial to start, we want Rashford to start, and we want Jadon Sancho to be playing from the right hand side. So what that means is that you cannot just go out and tell Timo Werner that, boss, you know what, we are willing to guarantee you a position in the starting lineup, because we technically cannot do that. It's only Chelsea who can do that, and I think they have done that because it's easy for them to put Tammy Abraham on the bench and come on in the second half or as an impact player or play just some games in the season and make Timo Werner the number one priority striker in the team. And with Willian leaving and with Pedro leaving as well, they have a new look Chelsea. With Timo Werner as a starting striker, on the left hand side you can have Kalam Hudson-Odoi, for example. On the right hand side you can have a Hakim Ziyech and then a Mason Mount playing in the number 10, and you still have a Christian Pulisic and a Tammy Abraham on the bench. So it's going to be a new look Chelsea side this season, and I think that's one of the reasons why it was appealing for Timo Werner as well to go to Chelsea. Now, the fact that United could have gone for him but did not go for him also depends upon a lot of things. Now, one of these things is the transfer budget that they have. Now, with Ighalo staying, uh, in the last 2 years, if you look at Manchester United's transfer window, they have spent about 70 million net on transfers. If you look at last season, we bought Fred for about 50-55 million, and we bought Diogo Dalot for about 20-22 million, right? And we bought Lee Grant. So we were spending about 75 to 80 million, whereas we sold, uh, who did we sell? We sold, I think, Daily Blind we sold for about 16 million. We sold Matthew Darmian for about 7 million. We sold Sam Johnston for about 7 million. So In the end, we ended up doing a business of about 50 million net, 50 odd million net. And if you look at last season, it's a well documented fact that yes, we did go for Maguire for 80. We went for Van Bissaka for 50, that's 130. 15, another 15 for Daniel James, that's 145. And then if you add Bruno Fernandes to this, then it's another 55. So that's a 200 million that we've spent. But we've gotten 75 million from Romelu Lukaku. We've gotten about 3 million as a loan from Smalling. And then we've loaned out Alexis Sanchez. The thing is, and we also ended up selling Marwan Fellaini for about 7 million in January, if I'm not wrong, January of last year. So if you look at Manchester United's net spendings in the past 2 years, they have been on an average of 70 million. And if that's the budget that Manchester United has this season as well, I mean, you buy a Jadon Sancho for about 80 to 90 million, and you sell maybe a Smalling for 15 million to Roma, and you try to sell Jesse Lingard, you try to sell Phil Jones, you try to sell Marcus Rojo. I don't think you'll be able to sell both Lingard and Pereira, but you try to sell these players for about 40 million, and then you use that money to buy someone like a Jude Bellingham, the 16-year-old player who we all want. So if you look at the business that Manchester United are wanting to do, and a lot of it also depends on Paul Pogba leaving, and now that it looks like Paul Pogba will not be leaving, where's the money coming from? And it's not really coming from anywhere. And we are a rich club. Yes, I know we are the richest club in the world, but there has to be a limit on the spendings. And if you see in the past 6 years, Manchester United has been a project. Started with Louis van Gaal after the demise of David Moyes. Started with Louis van Gaal. He bought some crappy players, Daley Blind, Mathieu Darmian. He bought really crappy players. I think Martial and Ander Herrera were the only good purchases, if I remember correctly. And then Jose Mourinho, in the first season, he could do a good business, and the second season, he was not backed. So it's been a club, a project for the past 6 years, and we are not making money because we are not regularly in the Champions League. We are regularly playing in the Europa League. We are not winning trophies regularly. And to top that, and this brings me to the Alexis Sanchez topic that I wanted to talk about, we spent 400,000 a week on wages for Alexis Sanchez. Now I've seen a lot of fan channels come out and said that and change their opinions and say that Alexis Sanchez was a poor negotiation done with Arsenal by Manchester United, and it was a poor signing. And I 100% disagree with that, because at that point of time when Henrik Mkhitaryan was not performing, and see, Jose Mourinho was not the best manager for Henrik Mkhitaryan to play for. He would have been better playing for an Arsene Wenger, right? Although it did not work out for him in Arsenal as well, but Henrik Mkhitaryan was not the player Jose Mourinho could develop. Henrik Mkhitaryan could not adapt to the Premier League, or adapt, sorry, to the Premier League. And then at that point of time, when Alexis Sanchez may have been in decline in that particular season, but if you look at Alexis Sanchez and you say that, okay, it's a free swap between the two players, you would take that deal any day. You would take that deal. And for Alexis Sanchez, Man City wanted him as well. If he wanted to win titles, if he wanted to win the Premier League, he could have and should have gone to Man City. He did not, because we were ready to pay him those extra 100, 150,000 a week as wages. So for him, it was all about the money, and he came to Manchester United, which was at that point of time, if this Alexis Sanchez signing would have worked for us, nobody would have complained. And that's the same thing that has happened with Angel Di Maria. It's the same thing that has happened with Radamel Falcao. It's the same thing that has happened with a lot of players. Now, because of Alexis Sanchez and the wages that we still are paying for him, you're talking about paying 200,000 for Timo Werner, to Timo Werner. You're talking about paying about 200,000 to Jadon Sancho, while not offloading Alexis Sanchez and his wages. And maybe 100, 120 million will be paid by Inter, but the remaining you still have to pay. So you really have to balance those books, and I think Manchester United cannot afford both Sancho, Werner, and a midfielder this transfer window, unless we end up selling Paul Pogba. I don't think we can, simply because of the wages of Alexis Sanchez. Which also brings me to the point that Jadon Sancho to Manchester United now becomes even more important, because number one, Timo Werner is almost gone. So the only player left right now for us, which will actually improve us immediately, would be Jadon Sancho. And that's one of the positions that we are desperate to sign a player at. Now, the outlets which have claimed that Liverpool have entered the race to sign Jadon Sancho, and again, it's just a stupid news, a stupid sentence because Liverpool was one of the clubs that were ready to follow the non-playing staff at the start of this pandemic, right? And then they took a U-turn and they did not follow anyone. But they have cash problems, they have money problems, and that's one of the reasons why they did not go for Timo Werner and his release clause. So you're telling me that Liverpool cannot afford to pay a 50 million for Timo Werner's release clause, but they're in the race to sign Jadon Sancho for about 80 million, 30 million more. And again, they cannot guarantee a starting spot to Jadon Sancho. I do not agree to this, and hence I don't think Liverpool will end up getting Jadon Sancho. But Chelsea, on the other hand, while I've mentioned that they still have 100 million to spend, Chelsea can guarantee a starting spot to Jadon Sancho because when Timo Werner plays as a striker, the right hand side could be Jadon Sancho's, and then you can have either a Hudson Odoi coming from the left or a Ziyech coming from the left, or a Ziyech even playing as a number 10 with Mason Mount, Christian Pulisic, and Tammy Abraham on the bench. It's a good side, and that I do see that happening, but and it will happen only if Sancho says that I would prefer a move to Chelsea over Man United, or we don't end up getting Champions League football. But that's the update. That's the logical update for Jadon Sancho. And now let's talk about what the ideal transfer window will be for us. Now, the ideal transfer window, of course, would be a Timo Werner, a Jadon Sancho, a Jude Bellingham, and even to an extent that you also get Jack Grealish even while Pogba is staying, because then your bench strength becomes like Man City's. You have technically two teams that you can field. While that's not possible and not realistic as well, I think realistically, if we now know that Ighalo will be with Manchester United till January, and we don't see us signing a striker, I think a good transfer window will be to keep Paul Pogba, make him sign a new contract if possible, and then go for a Sancho and a Jude Bellingham, because Bellingham is someone who can then fill in the Matic position in the next 2 3 years because he's 16 right now. Let's say he takes about a year to adjust to Manchester United, he develops a little bit more, and by the time he's 19, and then Matic is 34, 35, and he leaves the club in 2 years' time, and Jude Bellingham is the one who can actually come in and fill that position for a long time at Manchester United. And trust me, Jude Bellingham has played about 30 games at the age of 16 in the championship, which is a big deal. So he is going to be a superstar if he continues to grow like this. You got a Jadon Sancho, and if you keep Paul Pogba now, even if Paul Pogba leaves next summer and you get Jack Grealish, it's a pretty good team. It's a pretty good team, right? Then the only missing link for me then would be maybe a defensive midfielder if McTominay doesn't develop and become into a defensive midfielder, or a striker. I mean, a striker will be a missing link for sure after Igalo leaves, but I mean, that's about it. And then we are a very strong team. So I think the signs are good, but we need to be vigilant in this transfer market. We need to sign Jadon Sancho and Jude Bellingham minimum in this transfer window. And if we can get a striker, which I don't think so, or if we can get both Bellingham and Grealish, that'll be great, because then you are telling Paul Pogba that just like Cristiano Ronaldo, stay for 1 more year, sign a new contract, and then you off you go to Real Madrid. We have Jack Grealish coming in who can adapt, and we have Jude Bellingham coming in who can be ready in the next 2 years. Which brings me to some of the other players that have been linked with Manchester United in the past 2 3 days. And firstly, it's the most recent, which is Donny van de Beek in the past 24 hours. Now, Donny van de Beek's name was highlighted before as well. He's a good player. He's a player who plays for Ajax. We have good relations with Ajax. Daily Blind transfer. Edwin van der Sar works over there. But Donny van de Beek and his preferred destination was Real Madrid. That's my problem. If Madrid is not going to buy him and he doesn't want to stay at Ajax for one more season, why would United buy the player who's going to be turning 23 soon, or is 23, something like that? Keep him for another 3 years, and he does a Paul Pogba or a Cristiano Ronaldo and goes to Real Madrid in the next 3 years. That's that's a problem that I have, because I want players to be here for the next 5 years or 10 years so that they can help us rebuild and get us that title. And even if we do end up doing that, Donny van de Beek is a central midfielder who can play as a number 10, who can play as a number 6, who can play as a number 8, and he's technically a box to box midfielder. And you have a few box to box midfielders. What you need is someone who can replace Bruno Fernandes in that number 10 position if Bruno Fernandes gets injured, as a backup. And to spend 50 million on for Donny van de Beek and not spend that money on Timo Werner, for me, it doesn't just make any logical sense. And that's why I feel it's a news which is maybe released by Manchester United itself to make all of us feel happy because of the Timo Werner situation. And it might just be that it's news in the papers to fill the columns. You never know. But I don't see any truth behind it. It is possible that it will happen. If it happens, I won't be sad. I will be happy with it. But I don't think that should be our priority. Of course, the priority needs to be Jadon Sancho, and we need to sign him. And after that, it should be Jude Bellingham and Jack Grealish. And if we talk about who would you prefer over Jack Grealish and Donny van de Beek, well, Van de Beek will cost you 50 million and Jack Grealish might cost you 60 million. They're of the similar age. Jack Grealish is someone who's proven in the Premier League. You do the math, and Jack Grealish is less likely to move to Real Madrid in the next 2 3 years than Donny van de Beek. So for me, the preference would be a player who's coming from a smaller club, who has the potential to be a star, a leader, and he wants to do good, and he won't be a problem if he sits on the bench more regularly because of Bruno Fernandes in his starting position. So for me, the preference would still be a Jack Grealish over a Donny van de Beek. Talking about transfers, and there have been some outlets who have claimed that Wolves have actually lowered their asking price for Raul Jimenez. He's 28, uh, and the asking price which is quoted now, which Wolves will demand, is 18 million. Just 18 million. And it sounds all rosy when you hear this. It sounds really nice. I mean, it sounds like you should spend that 18 million with the blink of an eye, get Raul Jimenez, and you're sorted for the next 3 years at least, right? And you have a striker which is proven in the Premier League, scores goals, gives assists, is a team player, and gives you something different than Martial and Rashford. So yes, it makes sense. But the problem is, it's not 18 million. It's again a news which is, I mean, first of all, even if Wolves are ready to sell Raul Jimenez, they bought Jimenez for 34 million. And in this transfer market, they don't need to sell. And secondly, it's not that Raul Jimenez has come out and said that, oh, I want to leave Wolves. He's not done that, right? So who says that they might still need money, Wolves, but who says that they will not want to sell Raul Jimenez for a profit, which is at least 10 to 15 million dollars, at least, or 10 to 15 million pounds, which again raises his price to about 50 million, and then tells you in 50 million, if you're getting a Timo Werner who's 24, why would you go for a player who's 28 in 50 million? It's for me, again, that's the problem with the news, and that's the problem with the media outlets, that they just need news to fill out papers. It could be true, but it doesn't look like, logically it doesn't look like, sorry, it doesn't look like. When you talk about the preparations for the Tottenham game, uh, Manchester United did play a game on Saturday, I think it was, yes, at Old Trafford. There was a red team and there was an away team. There was a home team and an away team. Home team had players like Paul Pogba, Marcus Rashford, uh, if I'm not wrong, Harry Maguire, and all these players. And away team had Anthony Martial, Bruno Fernandes, uh, Brendan Williams, etc. So the score that was told to all the people was 4-4, with Rashford scoring 3, Martial scoring 1, and Rashford scoring a hat trick, Martial scoring 1, Pogba scoring 1, etc. etc. Bruno scoring 2. So, and that all, I mean, it sounds very nice and everything, but that's not the reality. The reality is that we don't know what the final score was. We don't know whether it was a 4-4 or not, because there's no credible source coming and verifying that. Uh, we know for a fact is that Luke Shaw scored 2 goals. That's all we know, and still it's not verified. But that's the closest news, which is kind of true in this scenario. We don't know what the final scoreline was, but Manchester United did play a game, and Luke Shaw looks like Luke Shaw scored 2 goals. But that's all we know. Uh, the Tottenham game is going to be in less than 2 weeks now. I'll be thrilled to see Paul Pogba play with Bruno Fernandes and Rashford starting as well. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer came out and said that the players who have not played since January, or since a long time, it looks difficult for them to start, which I agree with, because if you've not played football for a long time, in case of Paul Pogba especially, it's not easy for you to come out and just perform. I mean, you will be rusty, and it will take you at least 2 3 games to get into the rhythm. And our first 2 games are arguably the most difficult games for us. It's Tottenham and it's Sheffield United, the two direct rivals for top 4. We need to get 6 points out of them. So do you start Paul Pogba? See, it depends upon their performances in training. It depends upon all the the exhibition matches, you can call them, or practice matches, you can call them, that Manchester United plays. And if Paul Pogba doesn't look rusty, if Marcus Rashford doesn't look rusty, then yes, obviously start with them. Another thing is, if you're going to White Hart Lane to play, and I don't think the venue is that big a problem because of no supporters in the stadium. But I think if you're going there and you're not starting with a Pogba and a Rashford, and you're losing 2-0 at halftime or after 60 minutes, and you get these people on, you are giving them 30 minutes to create an impact. It's not feasible. I would rather have them play the first half, both Pogba and Rashford. We just go 1-0 or 2-0 up in the first 60 minutes, and then maybe give Pogba and Rashford a rest. I mean, that's better in terms of planning, but you never know what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer does. You never know whether he's going to start with the back three or not. So let me know what you think of the video, guys. Let me know what you think about the new transfer speculation, about the Jadon Sancho news. And I still feel that it's 7 on 10. United are still, I mean, with Chelsea now focusing on a left back after Timo Werner signing, after they complete the Timo Werner signing, they are focusing on either Ben Chilwell or Tagliafico as a left back, and that's the position they want to strengthen next. So it does look like, I mean, we are in the it's for sure that we are in the prime position to sign Jadon Sancho, but nothing is final till the time it doesn't hold up a shot. So let me know what you think of the video, guys. Let me know what you think about the Sancho situation, the Werner situation. Please do share your thoughts in the comment section below. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please do so. It's a relatively new channel, but we are growing day by day, week by week, and we thank you for all your support and love. And till the next time, take care.